From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Fighting back against dreaded Palmer amaranth, how a special pollen could hold the answer. The upcoming hurricane season is shaping up to be a doozy.
Forecast for named storms, hurricanes, and major hurricanes is the highest NOAA has ever issued for the May outlook.
I'll look at what could fuel the storms as tensions run high in the House over the latest farm bill.
The restoration of the farm safety net does come at a cost.
I cannot and I will not support this bill.
The latest as both sides look for common ground right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when experience meets expertise. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The long-awaited markup on the next farm bill is now underway. And fireworks started to fly almost immediately during a House Ag Committee session on Thursday. AgDay's Michelle Rook is continuing to follow the story. Michelle, Republicans on the committee will need the support of Democrats to get this bill to the next level.
They do, Clinton, and historically farm bills have been bipartisan in nature, but this farm bill is drawing criticism for dividing the parties over the farm safety net and conservation programs, but to a larger extent, food and nutrition cuts, plus just the overall cost.
We're meeting today to consider H.R. 84.
House Ag Committee Chair G.T. Thompson kicked off saying the Farm, Food, and National Security Act of 2024 attempts to update the farm safety net to reflect the current marketplace.
American farmers face natural disasters, take huge personal risks, and are at the whims of regulatory overreach. It's a privilege to deliver a farm bill that strengthens the risk mitigation measures available to producers, providing certainty in a time of volatility.
Thompson added that increasing reference prices and base acres is essential and adds to the price tag.
The restoration of the farm safety net does come at a cost. I've spent a lot of time with the Congressional Budget Office and the Budget Committee to correct erroneous assumptions.
He also qualified the changes in the nutrition title.
The TFP update before us does not cater to any one side. It is a balanced approach, forward-looking, underscored by the need for Congress to reassert its authority.
Ranking Member Scott blasted the bill, saying it undermines efforts to move agriculture into a climate-smart era, and it hurts families with the largest cut to SNAP in 30 years.
Our nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says that this $30 billion cut generated by the Thrifty Food Plan change all come from SNAP benefits.
Representative McGovern added that the bill benefits big agriculture and will blow up the deficit by $40 billion, never becoming law.
This bill is a disaster. It's a disaster for America's farmers. It's a disaster for America's families. It is a disaster for America's environment. And it is a disaster for America's workers.
And Scott criticized the bill for stripping the Ag Secretary's authority to use the CCC for disasters.
I cannot and I will not support this bill. I will vote no, and I encourage my colleagues to oppose it as well.
Other House members yielded their time, but there was general consensus from both parties. They need to work together to get legislation that benefits farmers and consumers. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. We know that nutrition benefits are an important factor in this legislation, and in another hearing in the House, legislators had different takes on the direction of the SNAP program. One Republican eyeing pilot programs that would implement dietary restrictions for recipients, while Democrats argued benefits need to support food costs.
The SNAP program is solely focused on providing calories rather than nutritious food.
Though it tells poor people what to eat, it does little to address the underlying challenges that we face in fighting hunger.
A new analysis by the think tank The Urban Institute claims SNAP benefits fail to cover the rising costs of moderately priced meals in at least 98% of U.S. counties last year. NOAA is issuing its forecast for the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season, and as Ivan Rodriguez reports, people on the East Coast could be in for a bumpy ride.
People who live along the east and Gulf Coast should brace themselves. The 2024 Atlantic Hurricane Outlook released by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Thursday is one for the record books.
The forecast for named storms, hurricanes, and major hurricanes is the highest NOAA has ever issued for the May outlook.
Between 17 and 25 storms are forecasted to form between June 1st and November 30th. Of those storms, 8 to 13 could become hurricanes, 4 to 7 of which could strengthen into major hurricanes Category 3 or greater.
There's an 85% chance of an above normal season.
Sea surface temperatures are at record warm levels, and experts expect current El Niño conditions to transition to La Niña, creating a dynamic strongly conducive to tropical cyclone activity and setting the stage for storms to rapidly intensify.
Every Category 5 storm that made landfall in the United States in the last 100 years, ready, is a tropical storm or less 3 days prior. The big ones are fast.
The ominous forecast comes as much of the South has already been inundated by heavy rain in recent weeks, particularly along the Gulf Coast. Experts warn the tropical trouble, coupled with saturated soil, poses the threat of extreme flooding, even well inland.
Hurricanes impact far beyond the coast. Be aware and prepared no matter where you live.
And after the storm has passed.
A wet spring is continuing to eat into drought conditions across the country. The latest drought monitor now showing just under 13% of the nation is in drought. That's down about another 1% from the previous week. A few areas are still in need of moisture right now, including western Kansas and South Florida. The severe weather moved south midweek, with Texas officials issuing an emergency declaration in Temple, which is north of Austin, after a tornado ripped through that area. There were no reports of any injuries. Meanwhile, in Greenfield, Iowa, officials confirm it was an EF3 tornado that touched down in the small city, killing 4 people and injuring dozens of others. Through Tuesday, 859 tornadoes had been confirmed this year. That's 27% more than the U.S. sees on average. Iowa has so far recorded the most, with 81 confirmed twisters. Meanwhile, a holiday weekend heat wave is continuing to build in the south. Meteorologist Martin Lormore joins us with an update.
Yeah, it has been a hot past couple of days, and sadly enough, it's not going anywhere. We're going to be seeing these temperatures reaching into the triple digits across most of the south, and these 90s are going to be very persistent. So you notice a lot of triple digits, got a couple of these temperatures in the 90s across the Gulf of Mexico. Now, as we get into our overnight, temperatures will luckily start cooling down, not as much as we really want to see. We're only getting into the 70s across most of the south, but as we get into tomorrow afternoon, look at how high these 90s stretch all the way up to Tulsa, Atlanta, Memphis, even 80s as high as Cincinnati, St. Louis, Omaha's up to 78 degrees. So it's going to be a warm next couple of days, and this isn't going anywhere. Look at that, Richmond, 87 degrees. Yeah, it's going to be very toasty. We're also watching for our chances for a handful of these thunderstorms to try to go severe, especially on this Friday. We're watching as this little cluster moves its way across the Rust Belt into parts of the Great Lakes, so they could be seeing some more of those storms, and we're already going to be rebounding these storms. That's going to move through that area, part of the plains, on our Sunday and into that next Monday, once again into parts of the Great Lakes. And what a tasty looking photo. Joe of Fireboro, California tells us that they started the cherry harvest this week and they just finished up. Now they are thankful for no rain over the past couple of weeks, which would have damaged the crops. He said that they had many as 280 people working to hand pick this fruit over 40 acres. Still looks delicious. I'll have more in the forecast coming up.
We're continuing to follow a developing story. A second human case of avian flu linked to dairy cows has been found in Michigan. Michigan health officials saying the patient is a farm worker who had regular exposure to infected livestock, but they report the person has recovered from mild symptoms. Now, this marks the second instance of a person developing mild symptoms from an H5N1 infection. Now, the last was a Texas dairy worker who was diagnosed in March in the first documented case of the virus spreading from dairy cows to a human. While health officials say the risk to humans right now remains low, they say they are moving forward with a plan to produce 4.8 million doses of a vaccine for humans. They say there is no evidence H5N1 is spreading from person to person. However, there are currently 52 dairy herds in 9 states impacted by the virus. Meanwhile, researchers continue to look into the origins of H5N1 in dairy cattle, and it's now reported wastewater monitoring in Texas picked up an early signal of the outbreak. Scientists report first noticing the signal back in early March. That's about 3 weeks before USDA announced the virus had infected dairy cattle in Texas. Now, since that first detection, researchers in the state report finding it in the wastewater of 9 cities and in 19 of the 23 sites they monitor. But the source of the signal is still a mystery. The CDC continues to say the current risk to public health is low, but they're keeping a close eye on it. Well, it was a wildly mixed day across markets. We'll look at the winners and losers coming up next in Markets Now. And later, scientists say they may have a new idea for controlling herbicide-tolerant weeds. It's Smart Farming Friday after weather. USDA reported that corn export sales for last week were up 23% from the previous week, and that helped drive the market on Thursday. Michelle Rook is back with more on that and further strength in wheat in Markets Now.
A mixed day in the greens on Thursday. We had corn and wheat higher, soybeans lower. Allison Thompson is back with the Money Farm. Corn and wheat to the plus side, and we're really still trading weather, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Definitely there's still some areas of concern, especially going into the long Memorial Day weekend. So forecasts going into the weekend look pretty wet, especially for a lot of the Midwest and the Corn Belt, whereas actually winter wheat areas are actually remaining pretty dry. And based on today's drought monitor, there is areas of concern, especially along the western part of the Southern Plains. So obviously areas of concern going into long holiday weekend do add some market volatility. Today it was to the upside. So we'll definitely be watching forecasts over the weekend to see if anything changes, not only here, but also globally as well.
And from a technical standpoint, both corn and wheat kind of go up into resistance areas. And then what do we get? Some profit taking or farmer selling, or why do we end off of our highs?
Yeah, I have a feeling it's a little bit of both. You know, we're kind of dealing with some fat round numbers up here for resistance. You know, that $7 level in Chicago, $7.50 on Minneapolis wheat. And I'm sure that is a point where a lot of guys would like to make some sales. So it is probably a difficult area to get through. But it's also technically a level of resistance that we've had a hard time closing above here for at least the last couple of weeks. So I'm sure it is meeting some resistance there and continues to add a little bit of sellers. But overall, we keep testing it. But eventually we're going to hit a point here where we're going to need to hit it and get above it, or we could see further profit taking come into the downside.
Allison, did soybeans go down because of the lack of China confirmation? You know, there's been rumors of that China business all week.
We did rally on the news or the rumors, as you say, you know, this week, but we haven't received any confirmation. We haven't gotten any export sales announcements, but that doesn't mean they're not buying. I think the trade would like to see a large purchase to just really give us confirmation that we are seeing them enter the market. But ultimately, they could be making purchases below 100,000 metric tons a day, and we wouldn't see that.
Thanks for joining us. Allison Thompson with the Money Farm. We'll have more AgDay coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
Hey, welcome back. We're still talking more about the strongest severe weather we're going to be expecting over the next couple of days. Is it going to persist through our Friday, Saturday, even into our Sunday? A lot of these days we'll be seeing the chance for that strong to severe weather. So for our Friday, we're looking at a lower chance to see that severe weather across a good portion of the Mississippi River Valley. Unfortunately, places that don't necessarily need to see the rain, they're seeing more of it. And we could be seeing some more of those strong to severe storms across this area in the yellow. Now, as we get into our Friday, we are still looking at chances of storms, but this is going to be a different system. This one's going to be back toward the Oklahoma, Kansas area, places that have already seen very strong tornadoes so far this year. and they're going to be seeing the possibility for more of those. Damaging winds and hail is also going to be there, so make sure to keep a watch out if you're in parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, even just to the north of Dallas. Could be seeing those stronger to severe storms. There could also be some weaker of those severe storms stretching throughout that Saturday afternoon, so keep a watch out over the next couple of days. Now, precipitation's also been an issue. We've been seeing several places seeing rain, not necessarily needing to see more of it. Over the next 24 hours, we'll see that rain spreading its way across parts of the Rust Belt and into the Great Lakes. This will continue on, but there's that next system already making its way through for the next 7 days. Plenty of rain, upwards to 1 to 2 inches across parts of the upper Mississippi River Valley, even into parts of the Great Lakes, scattered areas of 1 to 2 inches of rain over this next week. Plenty of rain to be coming down, so we are looking at the chance for some more of that flooding over the next several days. Friday, you got those lower chances. Our Saturday, again, right associated with this strong to severe weather on that Saturday. We'll be seeing that chance there. Moving that into our Sunday as we see that strong to severe weather make its way into parts of the Great Lakes, continuing its way on in New England, where they could be seeing that lower end chance of some of that flooding. So this right here is our culprit right here. This little trough that's making its way through, and it's going to pull in another trough as we get into our Saturday. As this swings down into our Sunday, we'll be seeing that disturbing areas again in toward parts of the center part of the country and even into parts of the Great Lakes. We'll be watching for that very closely into our Monday and Tuesday as we see again, there's that little low pressure. Now, as we get into our Tuesday and Wednesday, still staying hot across parts of the center part of the country, but this low right here swerving its way down, bringing much cooler air in toward parts of New England and the Great Lakes could give a bit of relief for places that have seen the warm temperatures, but unfortunately, the triple digits not expecting to end across the southern part of the country anytime soon. Eureka, with a Y, California, looking to be a little on the cooler side, high 72 degrees. McPherson, Kansas, could see some thunderstorms in the morning, high 80 degrees. And finally, Hickory, North Carolina, again, handful of storms, high 84.
On our Smart Farming Friday, new technology could help stop the spread of some weeds, according to research published in the journal Weed Science. A sterilization technique often used in pest or insect control may also be applicable to weeds. The focus is on reproductive sterilization. Now, the researchers say using sterile pollen could effectively disrupt weeds like Palmer amaranth. The idea is to sterilize the pollen of multiple weed types and then distribute that across the field, ultimately disrupting or preventing weed seed production. Now, the scientists say there are plenty of concepts to work out, but it could help target herbicide-tolerant species in the future. Speaking of weeds, Future Farming and Daniel Azevedo reporting Case IH is launching a new sprayer drone. The display popping up in Brazil as the company teams up with XAG Drones to pre-launch 2 different size platforms. Now, company leaders say the drones are focused on small and medium-sized growers. The Case IH branded drones are expected to be available in the Brazilian market later this year. And construction of the nation's second largest biorefinery is now underway in South Bend, Indiana. Bioenergy producer Verbio announcing the new development. It's converting this northern Indiana ethanol plant to produce renewable natural gas and bioethanol. Now, over the next 6 months, it plans to build foundations for 8 new anaerobic digesters. A second phase would build 8 more. Eventually, Verbio hopes to produce at least 85 million gallons of corn ethanol and 2.8 billion cubic feet of renewable natural gas, or RNG. It hopes to begin production of that RNG in 2026. Now, energy from the sun is great for growing plants, but it can be a problem for sensitive electronics like GPS. Now, scientists say they have new ideas about the sun's magnetic field. Next. We've been talking a lot about the sun lately after a magnetic storm a few weeks ago impacted GPS in several planters across the country. Well, now scientists may have found where the sun's magnetic field originates. It's been a minute since science class, but the sun has a powerful magnetic field that creates sunspots on the star's surface and unleashes those solar storms. But exactly how that magnetic field is generated inside the sun is a puzzle that has vexed astronomers for centuries. Originally, many scientists believed the sun's magnetic field originated from deep within the celestial body, but now they say the source is likely much closer to the surface. Their calculations showing the magnetic fields can be generated about 20,000 miles below the sun's surface compared to other models which had them at more than 130,000 miles. Now, in a report published in the journal Nature, a team of researchers developed a model that may help scientists better understand the 11-year solar cycle and hopefully improve the forecasting of space weather, which, as we witnessed, can disrupt GPS and communication satellites as well as dazzle night sky watchers with auroras. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.